we're back and we're heading into week 2. And I think I'm going to make this a weekly thing of me looking at these expert predictions of the Vikings game. We know this week we play the Colts. I'm curious what people are going to say. And if you like the videos, if you like Viking stuff, if you like sports stuff, because we do Extra Point Podcast, make sure you subscribe. Super easy. Doesn't take much time. You just head down there, you click the button, you subscribe. All right, let's just jump into these predictions real quick, and I'll give my thoughts, and I'll react, and my takes on their takes, and things like that. Here we go. All right, Colts-Vikings. This is from ESPN and their predictions. This is one we looked at before that I think had fantasy stuff, and of course we won't look at that, much like we didn't last time. But what to watch for? All right, Colts cornerback Xavier Rhodes faces his former team. Yeah, it's a big week. Xavier Rhodes is coming back. I actually didn't see how he did in that game against, who did they play? Colts played the Jaguars, and they lost that game. So I don't know how he did in that one. But the Vikings released him in the offseason after 7 seasons with the franchise. Rhodes' debut with the Colts didn't go too well. Well, they answered it for me. In Week 1 against Jacksonville, he gave up a 22-yard touchdown when he was caught peeking in the backfield, expecting a run. Then he was flagged for a 30-yard pass interference, which ended up leading to a field goal for the Jaguars. Can he improve while trying to contain Minnesota's passing attack? Okay, so this is our what to watch for. This is better than last week's what to watch for, which was Dalvin Cook's contract. Which, did I make a video on that? I can't remember if I did. Probably didn't. But I think in that last video I said Dalvin Cook will never, we need to just put the contract behind us. He's not going to sign. And then we signed him immediately after that video, and I looked like a fucking idiot. But anyway, so yes, he got a pass interference. That was a problem when he was with us. He gave up a 22-yard touchdown, which, corners get burnt. So, I really need to see the all 22, and I'll just watch him in this game and see how he does, because I think this little rundown doesn't help me too much. But yeah, that's interesting. I do want to see how Xavier Rhodes is on another team, because his last few years with us were not good. I guess I didn't mention the spread. They got Indianapolis favored here by 3, which we mentioned before was the teams at home. So these teams are equal in their eyes, and that sucks. I want someone to favor us or put us as an underdog. So technically the Colts are favored just because they're at home. And we see these spreads don't really turn out to be always accurate, as you saw with the Vikings-Packers, in which we were favored by 3. Okay. Bold prediction. Vikings receiver Adam Thielen will haul in 7 catches for 120-plus yards. It'll be his second straight week crossing the century mark, putting him on his way to matching the historic streak he set in 2018 when he started the season with 8 straight 100-yard receiving performances. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty crazy, and I think that's kind of what put Adam Thielen on the map as a top receiver, was when he had that 2018 stretch where, what was it, 8? Did they say on here? Was it 7 or 8? Yeah, 8 straight 100-yard receiving performances. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. At some point, we're going to face a team that's going to go, well, they got Olabisi Johnson, they got Justin Jefferson, who could be good, and then they got Adam Thielen. And if we're going to cover any of those if we're going to put any focus on putting our best guy on, putting 2 guys on, it's going to be Adam Thielen, especially without Stephon Diggs. We don't have the same duo that would draw attention from Adam Thielen like he did in 2018. So I don't see him getting 8 straight weeks. But, he's a guy who's going to get a lot of yards just because we're going to force him the ball a lot. And he's actually, despite some of the criticism, and, you go, oh, is Adam Thielen a number 1 wide receiver? He can do some number 1 wide receiver type things. He can get open deep, and he can get you touchdowns. I think there was 2 great passes to him in week 1. Were both of them for touchdowns? Probably. How many touchdowns did he have in that last game? But yeah, 7 catches for 120 plus. The Colts secondary isn't that fantastic, and if they're going to put Xavier Rhodes on him, and we'll see how that works. That actually might be a decent matchup for Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes' problem with us was that he just couldn't keep up with fast guys, and Adam Thielen's not particularly a fast guy. Not that he's not athletic, and not that he doesn't have speed. He can definitely get past people. He's not an elite route runner. He's not going to shake whoever's covering out of his boots. I think it's with Adam Thielen, it's always been body positioning, and he just seems to have a connection with Kirk, and he can put his body at the right angles to catch usually perfectly placed throws over the top for Adam Thielen from Kirk Cousins. So it's not unrealistic. It's a bold prediction, sure. To think that Adam Thielen will have a 100-yard game and you got to keep in mind that all those yards came in garbage time for Adam Thielen because we were not looking like we were going to win that game, and we didn't win the game. And, they played back and they played soft because they didn't have to. They knew they were going to win the game. Our defense couldn't stop them. All right, stat to know. Colts quarterback Phillip Rivers has 4 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 1-3 record in 4 career starts against the Vikings. His 35.1 total QBR against him is his worst against any team since the metric was first tracked in 2016. Does that, really matter? I get it, and I get the point. Maybe there's a trend, something happens enough that he doesn't have great games against the Vikings. Maybe it is the fact. Maybe Mike Zimmer hasn't figured out. He knows what he wants to do. But, specifically, we're his worst team. Teams change every year. And if you're counting this since 2006, things really have changed since 2006. So it's hard. He only has a 1-3 record in 4 starts against the Vikings. I want to know how many of those starts against the Vikings have been in the Zimmer era. That would have been interesting for them to put here. I don't know that off the top of my head. But, if 2 of those games are in the Zimmer era, maybe, but we used to have a good defense, and now we don't. We used to always have one of the best defenses in the league, and at this point, the best way to get Phillip Rivers is, rush him because the dude can't move. Dude's old and can't move, and we can't rush a guy. We can't rush Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is a completely different beast than Phillip Rivers. Aaron Rodgers can actually move, though he doesn't do that in the same way he used to. Still, and the Colts' offensive line is generally pretty good. I didn't watch their game last week, and I should have, and maybe I will, but that probably would have informed my decision here a little bit more. But, this is a winnable game for the Vikings. So, I know he is washed up. I know Phillip Rivers is washed up at this point. He probably won't have a great game against us. But if he has all the time in the world to throw and our defense literally can't, if our defense plays like they did last week, we would have to outscore them. How good is the Colts defense? They got some pieces for sure. I think you'd have to target the secondary, but we don't really have the weapons unless we can actually, get the other guys besides Adam Thielen involved. If we can get Justin Jefferson involved, if we can get Irv Smith involved, if we can get Olabisi Johnson involved in a more significant way, and we can actually lean on the run game more than we did. I know, statistically Dalvin Cook didn't have a he didn't have a top tier game, but you still saw him run. You never thought, oh, this isn't working. It's just we were down so much you can't really lean on the run when you're down when you're trying to score in 1 quarter all the points they've scored in 3. So, I can't blame him for that. But yeah, Phillip Rivers. That's probably the deciding factor. If we can actually get to Phillip Rivers, we should win this game fairly easily. But that's the question. We couldn't get past an offensive line. What was it? 4 pressures last week. So, give me 15, give me 20 pressures. Shit, that's good. That's a win in my eyes. And then all this other stuff is kind of meh. Fantasy stuff, betting nuggets. So, whatever. Cronin's pick. He's taking the Colts here, and so is Wells. This is pretty similar to that thing that had us favored doing one of their FPI prediction, which must be their aggregate math thing they do or whatever they do. It's almost 50%, and so this is a toss-up. No one knows who's going to win. We were pretty much favored. I think we were favored on this metric, and then we ended up losing. So does any of this really matter? I don't know. But close scores like this and 4-point games, they don't know, and you wouldn't know, but they don't feel strongly either way. I don't think they would have made this a little more beefy, I think. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, we're back to Bleacher Report. My feelings on Bleacher Report. I've talked about my co-host feelings on Bleacher Report. Got a big old picture of Aaron Rodgers here, starting off strong towards making me not like this article, but let's see what they have to say. I think they had some reasonable takes last time. Let's see. Are we going to have a picture of either Colts? Oh, here we go. Minnesota Vikings, Indianapolis Colts. We got a big old picture of Phillip Rivers here. Line set at 3. We already know that. DraftKings. So, Nearly our entire crew is on board with the public's heavy preference of the Minnesota Vikings, who are getting 3 points from an Indianapolis Colts squad that embarrassed itself in Week 1 loss to the depleted Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, nothing, I guess, really to point out here, but we kind of know we're going to get a Vikings-favored take here, so let's see what they have to say. This is an easy game to pick, largely because both teams entered the season with significant expectations, only completely faceplant in Week 1. Yeah, two bad teams, at least based off Week 1 performance. But Week 1, who knows what we're getting. We just saw the Browns play, and the Browns looked a lot better, at least on offense, than they did in Week 1. Their defense still shaky. So, things change in Week 1. It's hard to overreact to that. But, the Vikings did look really bad. I wish I would have watched this Colts game, but you lose to the Jaguars, who did not have high expectations going into the season. So you got to think things are a problem. And we know that Philip Rivers didn't have a good game, but we already mentioned all this. The Vikings got shredded at home by the Packers, and the Colts are stunned by the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Okay. See, we lost at home, but again, we didn't have fans or anything. So at the end of the day, this contest could come down to the two quarterbacks. While Kirk Cousins is no superstar, this is debatable, but we'll keep going. He looked a lot better last week than Philip Rivers. The Vikings should win this game outright, so getting the 3-point cushion is just gravy. Right. Okay, so if you're going just quarterback v. quarterback, Kirk Cousins was not a problem last week. Kirk Cousins made some really good throws. Kirk Cousins also, you could tell, is trying to improve his game. We'll see if it keeps happening. I remember during the offseason, we got to hear him a lot say, I'm going to work on using my legs and trying to extend plays and running for first downs. And I didn't do enough of that in the last 2 years here. And I know that's what quarterbacks do today. That's what the good quarterbacks do. And so I'm going to start trying to do it. And he tried doing it. It wasn't, it was not Patrick Mahomes. It was not Russell Wilson. Definitely wasn't Lamar Jackson. But he tried something. So, Anyway, what was my point about Kirk Cousins? I can't remember. Anyway, Kirk Cousins is no superstar, which, I think he borders on that. Like, he's at times a top 10 quarterback, and at times not. So, what can we say? At times he's like a top 5 quarterback. At times he's like a 15. And so I don't know. But Philip Rivers at this point, I don't know if he cracks the top 20. So if you're going quarterback v. quarterback, I'm taking Kirk Cousins here. The arm is still there. The decision making is not, perfect, but yeah, there was an article from Jay Gruden, talking about Kirk, where he said his biggest problem is he doesn't throw into tight windows. He wants guys to be wide open. That doesn't work because you're going to have to throw in tight windows. And I think he can. He just lacks this confidence in himself. And I think that's always been his biggest problem is he has the arm to do these things. His throws are never like, oh, that was disgusting. It's more as like you're waiting too long. You're not making the right decision because you're not willing to try something. Like, be okay with an interception. Sometimes you got to be okay with an interception because if you make that throw, it gets us the first down. And if you don't, well, it's an interception, but at least you tried. So, yeah, they think we're going to win this outright, at least this person, whoever this quote is from. And then the 3-point cushion, which is whatever, that's the cover. We're talking betting there, and I just really want to talk about who's going to win, who's going to lose. The Minnesota secondary is in transition, but declining mistake-prone Rivers might have more trouble exploiting that than Rodgers after he threw 2 picks and posted a sub-90 passer rating in his Colts debut. Let's not get completely on a guy for throwing sub-90 passer rating. Like, that happens, but they did play the Jaguars, who I can't even name their corners at this point. But I guess the same could be said for the Vikings. Like, our corners aren't great. So, will it look as bad as Rodgers picking apart our secondary? Definitely not if we can get some pressure. I keep saying the same thing. I don't know if it was really all our secondary there, It was our pressure, and Yannick Ngakoue has to step up, and we got to play him more minutes, and then we need the other guys to do something. And this is a good offensive line, and if Rivers has as much time to throw as Rodgers, he probably will have a better game than he did against the Jaguars. I'm curious how much the Jaguars got pressure, but it had to be more than we got on Aaron Rodgers. So, and it's not like Rodgers was scrambling and extending plays. He literally was pressured 4 times. But yeah, he threw 2 picks. No Cam Dantzler this week, which sucks, as he was probably, out of what I saw, even giving up big plays, was probably the best corner out there, just based on that first week. Now, granted, he didn't have to go against Devontae Adams every play. My Q's and Holden Hill got roasted by Devontae Adams plenty of times. But no Cam Dantzler this week, so we're going to be probably seeing Gladney more. And what does that mean? I don't know. We didn't see enough of Gladney, so I can't really tell you how he played in week 1 because we really just didn't see him. But Gladney's probably going to play this week. I don't even. It's going to be Holden Hill, who struggled, Mike Hughes, who struggled, and then Gladney, which we don't know. So we're kind of in the same situation as last week. Like, question marks everywhere. But if the pass rush is there, that really makes things a lot easier. And I hope it is. Both of these teams are better than their Week 1 results would lead you to believe, but only Minnesota won a playoff game last season. The Vikings should benefit from having far more continuity than Indy. So yes and no to that statement because, Week 1, it's full of overreactions, and we don't really know what a team is, because especially in a season with no preseason, with no real training camp, not in at least the same way they usually do it. And then generally, even with that stuff, Week 1, you can't just count everything on those results. But to say, we won a playoff game last season, our team is a lot different than it was last season. It's always the Colts team. At least, when you switch a quarterback, it's a pretty big deal. They're going to be without Marlon Mack. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor. And, they added pieces on defense. So these teams are kind of different from last year, so you can't go, well, last year to this year, 100% certainty. And then Week 1. So it's a bunch of question marks. But, we have far more continuity, and I think that comes, that statement right there, far more continuity, just comes because we have the same quarterback. But we don't have Stephon Diggs. We're trusting on Olabisi Johnson to be our number 2. Our offensive line is generally the same, actually, but we're going to be without Pat Elflein, which could be for better or for worse, and we'll see how whoever ends up stepping up, which will probably be Drew Samia. But the offensive line wasn't a problem last week. Yeah, it always is a problem, but it wasn't the problem last week. The problem was our defense couldn't do shit. Our defense is completely different. We still got 3 of the same studs that we had. We got Harrison Smith, we got Harris, we got Kendricks. Then I guess we got Barr if you want to throw him in there. Those guys are kind of all the same, but the rest of that defense and that D line and the second and the corners, it's all shooken up. So yeah, everyone took Minnesota here except Gagnon taking the Colts. So let's see if he proves out the right. I think when we looked at this last time, they all took Green Bay, so maybe I have some faith. But here we go again. 1-point game. They don't know shit. They don't feel strongly about either way. So, come on, man.